Welcome to the show, folks. This is Wrestling Changed My Life. Here we go.
What wrestling is we're problem solvers, and I use that term, and now I'm going to continue to use it because I really think it's important that we solve problems, whatever it is. If you have something in your family and you have an issue arise,
we can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestle, because if you wrestle, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling.
I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
You know, if I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Hope you're staying safe. Hope you're staying healthy out there. And let's get to it. My guest today is Aaron Simpson. Aaron was a two-time All-American for Arizona State back in the late 90s. He then went on to be a coach and then was talked into something really small at the time called MMA. And before we know it, he was on the UFC, and he's one of the first group of wrestlers that made some big money in the UFC and really paved the way for folks we're watching now. So it was great to have Aaron on, especially because he was my camp counselor at the Sun Devil camp back in the early 2000s. Back when I was in 7th grade, I raised money on my own to go to the Sun Devil wrestling camp because Rod Tidwell and Jerry Maguire, he was a Sun Devil, and he was one of my favorites. So I went down to the Arizona State wrestling camp, and Aaron Simpson was my camp counselor. So it was cool to have him on the show and bring it full circle. Folks, fan of the week is John Battaglia. You can find him on Twitter at thebattaglia724. He's the co-head coach at the Screaming Eagles wrestling team out in Beaver County, PA. John, thank you for the support, my good friend. Greatly appreciated. And this episode is brought to you by Gable the GOAT Part 2, which is a documentary podcast on Dan Gable covering his years as a coach from 1987 through 1993. You'll hear from Tom Ryan, Lincoln McElravy, Tom Brands, and it's fully produced, fully scored, tons of archival footage. If you like this show, please consider giving it a listen. It's episode 109 in the feed, or I'll text it to you. Just text Dan Gable, one word, to 555-888. That's Dan Gable, no spaces, one word, to 555-888, and I'll send you the documentary right to your phone. And that's it, folks. Let's give it up for Aaron Simpson. Peace! Aaron Simpson, welcome to the podcast, my man. How are you?
I'm good. Everything's good. Just down here quarantined in Tempe, Arizona right now.
Man, are the kids doing homeschool, and is your oldest daughter there as well? Or
in fact, what's today? Today's Monday. Monday the 30th, and we just found out that our school's canceled for the year now. Schools all in Arizona, Governor Ducey just canceled them for everybody. So they're out, we're home. My daughter's out there doing her homework and frustrated right now with everything. It's kind of that's how our life is. We used to homeschool when they were younger, so we're not necessarily, we weren't opposed to it or we're not used to it. I guess we are used to it in a way. So yeah, that's life here in Tempe, I guess.
But dude, I was following you on Instagram a little bit. Your kids are maybe some of the most active kids I've seen, just based on what they're doing. Tap dancing, running, like crazy stuff.
Yeah. My son is a high-level dancer. Has been since he was 4 years old. I have twins, boy and girl. My wife took him in when they're early, and he took to it. She didn't. My daughter didn't. And then he's just been, and he gets all kinds of attention for it. And he's really good. He enjoys it. He does everything, though. Plays baseball. Tried wrestling a little bit. Didn't necessarily like it, but he has that side to him. I just don't know if it's what it is that's keeping him from it. I'm not really pushing on him. So
yeah,
we'll see. Someday maybe he will, maybe not. It's a great sport, though. We know that. You and I both know that.
Indeed. And That's a good segue because your pops was a high school coach back in Nebraska in the early days for you. One of my first questions was, it seemed like you loved wrestling right away. Like your dad would take away your wrestling shoes as punishment. So how was he able to get you to fall in love with wrestling without being kind of an overbearing coach?
Yeah, he it was mine at an early age. Like I loved it ever since that I could remember. I'd go to sleep at nighttime in my singlet when I was a little kid, night before a tournament or whatever. Just be so excited. That's just all how it was for me. I have an older brother, and he kind of had a love-hate relationship with wrestling. Did it because he was good enough in high school to do it. Actually, he was going to go wrestle at the Air Force Academy and turned him down the last second and decided he just wanted to be a student and was a good student. Ended up being getting his degree in engineering, and he's doing great for himself. But yeah, wrestling was my thing, and I loved it. From an early age when I knew who Nate Carr was and Kenny Monday and guys like that, guys that I would read in magazines. I was in Nebraska at the time, and all I had was like a USA Wrestling magazine that would come out, and that was back in the early '80s, or mid '80s.
Mm-hmm.
86, 87, 88, we moved to Arizona, and then I found out what Sunkist was, and I did freestyle a lot more in Arizona than we did in Nebraska. So yeah, it was just something that I did, throughout the year. And I didn't have the best coaching or training partners. My dad was a coach, and he was a great coach, a great high school coach, but just not the high level of training and technically or whatever, especially not what these kids get these days.
Sure. I mean, it's crazy now. And I mean, obviously Arizona is definitely on the upswing, but back then it probably wasn't at the level of the Midwest. Maybe it was the same as Nebraska, but how did you seek out training partners and continue to advance your game in high school?
Well, I went every weekend to a tournaments. I grew up down in the desert, out down by Yuma, Arizona, where Cain Velasquez and some of these studs are from. And so we'd come up to Phoenix on every weekend and wrestle in tournaments. All I could do. I didn't have training, and then I'd run and lift and do whatever, but I didn't really have legit practices. My high school wasn't much for wrestling. I didn't necessarily have training partners besides my friends that I could throw around. So in the summers, I'd do camps. My dad would always bring like a good clinician out to our high school and do camps that way. But I just learned by doing, I guess, more than anything. And I was a good enough athlete that I could pick stuff up, and aspired to be like, if I'd get a videotape, and I think I saw you post, all the videos you watched, the videotape, the cassette tapes or the VHS you had. I mean, I had the main one was John Smith winning the Olympics in '88. And man, I watched that thing over and over and over and thought I could shoot a little single forever, that was had the little shake your leg out in the back a little bit and blast in a little single, and everyone wanted to do that, in that age group. So yeah, man. And then when I got to go to ASU and be under Leroy Smith, and obviously he's John Smith's brother, and I didn't know much about Leroy at the time, but I thought it was a great situation for me.
How long was Leroy your coach?
Leroy, all 5 years. I was his first recruiting class. We were maybe the number 4 recruiting class in the country my freshman year. Bobby Douglas just went to Iowa State, and so I was with Leroy there, and then I graduated, and he kept me on staff for a couple of years until 2001 when he was let go, and they brought in Tom Ortiz, and then Tom Ortiz kept me on, and then I was there till about 2007, 2008.
And that's when the MMA circle started. And we're definitely going to get there. But going back to your career, you had a tremendous high school career, 4-time state champ, 1 loss. Was it true you were a walk-on, though, at ASU?
Yeah. I was getting recruited to Nebraska, which is where I grew up, and I always wanted to be a Husker. I thought growing up I was going to play football and wrestle at the University of Nebraska. That was my goal. I want to do both. When I was a little kid, looking back now, I wish I would have. But that being said, I mean, I wish I would have done both in college. I think I could have played at ASU during the heyday when they were going. It would have been fun. But it was just something where I had academic scholarships to ASU. I had a full ride academically, and so
got it.
In order to save Leroy money, I was recruited as a walk-on. And he had a lot of money already given out, so we were able to bring in a lot of guys because of that reason. I did have to eat up a scholarship, and then I slowly earned athletic aid as it came.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay. I'm like, God, how the heck could he not be on scholarship?
Yeah, it was a different time, but no one, it's Arizona. No one knew who I was. I placed in cadets. My senior year, I was top 4 of the high school nationals. I was in the finals of junior nationals, but still I was pretty raw. Even though I've been wrestling my whole life, I didn't have like the greatest technique. I could just do it all. I mean, I would pick things up fast, and I felt like I had trained hard, and my conditioning was always, I felt like better than everybody else's, and kind of rolled through the junior national tournament and lost to Mark Smith in the finals, which is John Smith's little brother. And
Leroy's brother, yeah.
Yeah, Mark and I were kind of adversaries for a little bit, and then even in college a little bit, and then he came out here and coached us a little bit, and he and I became good friends, and now we still talk, every once in a while on Facebook or whatever, or Instagram.
Well, it's like crazy how little coverage there was back then compared to now. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
What Flow Wrestling alone has done for the sport of wrestling, and track wrestling now, is these kids are so spoiled. Like, I'm coaching at a high school now, and I tell these kids, like, you need to be watching this stuff every day because it's out there. The best wrestling, your age group, little kids, all the way to the best in the world, you can find on your phone. You can pick your phone up and start watching stuff, let alone all the little things they're tweeting out or putting on their Instagram. Flow Wrestling's done it and really has made wrestling a much better sport. And, in a way, I think it's probably saved wrestling.
Absolutely.
I think what the internet's done, the social media, and what Flow Wrestling's done, and even track wrestling, man, go into a tournament and be able to pull the brackets up and know who's next. Things run so smoothly now that unless it crashes, like I think we had last year, everybody down.
Do you think MMA's had any impact on the increase in wrestling numbers and increase in popularity?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we called that back in the day, like when all of us were getting into it and we were making a name. ASU wrestling was kind of a big name in the UFC, and you knew people knew about Kane and Bader and CB Holloway and myself, let alone Dan Henderson and Dan Severn, all the names that came through.
Yeah.
We knew like this was really going to help wrestling. Maybe it wasn't going to help it like at the college level so much, but it was going to help it. Kids that were, and especially now that it's advanced to where coaches are like, man, you even, striking coach or whatever, like if you want to do the sport, you got to learn how to wrestle. And I've had jiu-jitsu coaches that say, man, we want you wrestling. Yeah, come to jiu-jitsu class. When it's wrestling season, you need to be going there and doing it. And I think that's really wise of those instructors to have their kids wrestle if they want to be great at jiu-jitsu or if they want to fight someday.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like a good wrestler can learn jiu-jitsu and be deadly in 5 to 6 years, but you never, except for GSP, you never see it the other way around. Why do you think that is? Is it harder to learn?
Yeah, well, I mean, as well as I do, it takes a lifetime to do some of the things at a high level. And really, college wrestling was great for me in a way because of that grind, all the stuff you have to go through for a college practice. But then going out to the OTC and being around, some of the best in the world, training with Les Fetches and Kevin Jackson and some of those dudes, and we did all that all through college. And I had a room at the OTC in 2000, 2001, and so that was valuable for me because then there's just that next level of changing positions and changing speeds and down blocking and sprawl and throwing your hips and adjusting that you don't get in high school, and maybe you don't get in college. So now they do, man. These college kids these days are ridiculous. And I thought when I was wrestling with Steven Abbas and some of those guys that was the best it's going to get. Like, it can't get any better than this.
Yeah.
We're seeing wrestling at its finest. And now you fast forward and you see guys like Zahid and you see Dayton Fix and
Spencer Lee's ridiculous.
Spencer Lee and Kyle Dake and these dudes that are just blow my mind is how great wrestling is and how fun it is to watch. And I'd be crazy to think it's not even going to get better than it is now. And I think coaching across the country, back in the day, you'd see an NCAA tournament and a guy would get exhausted in the finals and the Iowa guy would come back and beat him because even though he was getting his ass kicked early.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like you don't see guys getting tired ever. Right. You never see somebody lose a match because of fatigue. Because coaching is great coaching throughout the country now, and they're happening at a younger age or whatever. Whereas back in the day, you had some old guy as a college coach out in, some school in California, and those guys are getting exhausted at the end because they weren't being trained like they should have been trained. They weren't getting the technique or the recruiting or whatever. So now we've got good coaching. I mean, we've got Chris Pendleton now going up to Oregon State, which is a nice change. Got a lot of young guys that are getting their deal. With Brandon Agam out in Minnesota, who was an opponent of mine forever, and he's doing good things in Minnesota. So it's great to see some of these younger guys get these programs.
Is there a big academy scene out in Arizona right now?
Sunkist has theirs. I think the biggest and the best, in my opinion, is Thoroughbred Wrestling Academy, and then they have a high school kind of branching off that.
That's the one you run, or what's your affiliation with Thoroughbred?
Just that I'm friends with Mike Douglas, who was my roommate in college, and Dave Douglas, my coach, and then Eric Larkin, those guys. Eric started the high school. Mike started Thoroughbred Wrestling. Mike's out of Illinois. He was out of Thorn Ridge High School, I think.
David Douglas from Illinois, too, 4-time state champ.
Yeah, Dave Douglas was a 2-time All-American for us. So, yeah, they have run a great club out here. And then the fact that they have this Valiant Wrestling program, which is a private school. Angel Cejudo, Henry Cejudo's brother, he's the head coach of the program. So he's running it. And these kids are doing well. They're just having a tough time getting the AIA, or Arizona High School Association, to give them the okay that they're a part of the AIA. They don't even want to compete in the AIA. They just have to get the accreditation through them so they can compete in other states and go to Beast of the East and go to the prep nationals. They're a prep school. So the AIA has been giving them a runaround, and that's really crappy. And there are a lot of high school coaches out in Arizona that are kind of negatively speaking about Valiant because they're afraid they're going to lose their kids to this high school. But if I'm a high school coach and I have a kid that can train at a high level and maybe go on to get a college scholarship and he's not going to get it done at my high school, then, and I'm a high school coach, then I'm sending him to a Valiant prep because I know that my best interest is that kid, not me possibly winning a state title as a coach.
Right.
But that kid changing his life.
Absolutely. And you think about when you were a senior going into your freshman year of college, you wrestled the traditional Arizona high school circuit. You're no doubt an athlete. What was the transition like going into ASU as a day one redshirt and kind of that 3-year progression to being an All-American 3 years later? Was it a big jump?
Well, it was a big jump. I was game for it. Like, I loved to train. It didn't matter. I mean, I ran track and was doing freestyle at the same time. Like, I'd play football on a Friday night, and Saturday morning I'd get up running a cross country meet. Like, I just loved to be active and doing that. And I loved to play games and compete. So going to college, it was no different. Like, I'm like, all right, what is it? What are we doing? The jump was like, I talked about Marcus Malika, who was a 2-time national champ for us. I don't think I touched his leg for several months in college. And he just would toy with me. And I was, one of the better kids coming out of high school. And here he was a freshman national champ. So that was huge for me. It was never like I was always leading the runs. I was always, winning the sprints and doing all that. So there was never an issue with that. It was all technical. It was never how hard I could go. And there was a learning curve I had to get. I'd body fake somebody all day and not score points on them. I had to try to figure out how to actually put together technique behind that. But yeah, that was more the technical part of it, and then the strategy. Pat Lynch was a training partner of mine. It really coached me a little bit, and we were in the same weight class, but he had back issues, and he was an All-American before me, and he talked to me about strategy and wrestling smart, and not necessarily going 100 miles an hour. So I had some good influences around me. Ray Miller, some big names that were ASU, guys, plus Kevin Jackson. Kevin Jackson was huge for me. He was a coach and my training partner at ASU while I was there. So,
and he was the first. What was it? The first UFC fight you ever watched was KJ back in the early days.
Yeah, I mean, we all got together and Kevin was like, "Hey, I'm going to do this UFC thing," and we're like, "All right." So we go in and train and help him out, and I did a little bit. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, he didn't really either. And then he went and we had a big party at my house, a bunch of college guys, you can imagine.
Yeah.
And then Kevin's fighting over in Japan, I think it was, or wherever it was, and we were going crazy. And he slammed some dude, beat him up. We went nuts for the rest of the night, I think. But yeah, that's where the really beginnings for me of it was. I mean, I think I might have seen the first one when it was kind of no holds barred or no gloves or anything. But then once KJ stepped in there, and then you fast forward, and they have the Ultimate Fighter, and I'm training with Josh Koscheck now. Josh is a coach at Buffalo at the time, Buffalo University. I'm going out there trying to get ready for the Olympic trials in 2004. Yeah, 2004. So he and I are training. He comes out here, I go there. And then, fast forward past the Olympic trials, and he goes, "Hey, man, I'm on this reality show called The Ultimate Fighter. You should check it out. It's pretty cool." I'm like, I'm in real pro wrestling, dude. It's going to be something big. So he's calling me from the Ultimate Fighter house, and I'm like shooting real pro wrestling out in California, thinking we're doing something big. And then you see where the two went. No one ever heard of real pro wrestling. And then obviously Josh, fought for a title in the UFC, fought GSP, and did some pretty cool things UFC. And then the whole time he's like, "Man, you got to get out of coaching." He goes, "You're going nowhere with that. This is where you should be. You should be fighting right now." And he said that from 2004 to 2008 when I finally was in it.
It took you that long to convert after 04?
Yeah, well, I was coaching. It was a safe thing for me. I stopped training. I think I lost to Chris Middleton at the World Team Trials for 3rd and 4th in 2005, and that was my last match. And so then from there, I just was coaching. 2005, 6, 7, I leave ASU and I start training with Bader and CB at a local gym here in Tempe. And
when was the Cal Poly thing? When you were doing flights out there?
Yeah, that was right after that year. So I had a year where I would fly. I lived in Tempe, but I would fly out to Cal Poly once a month and help Sammy Henson was coaching out there with John Azevedo. And I helped coach those guys. So I got to, be around Chad Mendez for a year and Boris Novachkov. And it was a cool experience, man. San Luis Obispo, if they had a fully funded program and facilities like other programs, I don't know anyone going to any other school. That place is just unbelievable.
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah. It's unbelievable. But I think they still probably have 5 scholarships, and they're battling every year to even, stay alive. But that program would be something special too.
Yeah, I mean, but think about the guys you just listed off there: Chad Mendez, Koscheck, and all these guys, and plus all the ASU guys. Without UFC, they would have been doing an assistant coaching job, making $25,000 a year in Buffalo, New York, and then all of a sudden this thing just freaking explodes, and it's a godsend, really. I mean, think about all the people who have made a living out of this, and even if you aren't a fighter, you got to be a wrestling coach at the gyms. And that was a whole thing, right?
Yeah, and it is to this day. I mean, now you get wrestling coaches that are going in and learn how to hold pads, and learn jiu-jitsu, and kind of making a living that way themselves. Yeah, MMA has really done that for people. And the UFC and now Bellator is taking it to that next level as well. But yeah, it's an exciting time, I think, to be a wrestler, and more so than any other time. I mean, I think you look back at some of the old, stuff in the 60s and 50s at Oklahoma State, some of those matches were like they crowded around the mat. I think wrestling back then was probably a pretty fun time, being an athlete back then, because you didn't have social media, you didn't have all this garbage. You could kind of get away with a lot. And I think it was maybe the old west of sports, college for sure, collegiate athletics for sure. I mean, now there's so much involved in recruiting and so many rules, and so I'm sure some of those guys from the old timers probably would prefer some of that stuff. But
man, you look at their technique; it's wild to watch those guys go.
watch Dan Gable's match his senior year, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe he got taken down like that. He lost his last match in college, and it was not the best wrestling. I'm sure he'd probably admit that. Like, it was
definitely.
How far it's advanced.
When you think about a lot of the guys I have in this show are about your age. They say their first time going to nationals was the first time they ever watched the nationals. When you got there your sophomore year, was that the case, or had you gone a couple times before that?
To the NCAA tournament?
Yeah.
Well, my senior year of high school, my dad and I went out to it and watched it. My dad got us tickets, and it was really special. We were really close with Matt Johnson, who was a finalist that year from Iowa State. His dad and my dad grew up together in Colorado. So, and I've known Matt since I was little. He was coaching at Wyoming when I was at ASU. Like, we were friends then. But so that was the first time. And then I qualified my freshman year at the NCAA tournament. Actually, I went 2-2 at the NCAA tournament that year. So that was maybe the second time I've been to a national tournament, and it's the greatest tournament in the world. I say it every year. Like, I think this would have been my 19th this year going. There's nothing like it. I mean, I've been to the World Championships. I've been to some of the greatest tournaments. I've never been to the Olympics, but The NCAA tournament is phenomenal. Like there's nothing that compares to that environment because every match means something. Every match. I took my son to it, who's not the biggest fan of wrestling, and he was like on the edge of his seat the entire time, looking at the brackets. I'm explaining who's who, and yeah, it's pretty special.
Is it what's a bigger like kind of chills in the back of your neck moment, like right before UFC's getting underway, or the Friday morning quarterfinals at Nationals?
All right, good question. There's nothing like knocking somebody out in a cage at a high level fight, like on TV. Like my first knockout was in the WEC, and I closed my eyes and threw a right hand over the top that I was supposed to lose to. They were picking this black belt in jiu-jitsu to lose, and I floored him in about 17 seconds, and it was like, holy shit, this is the coolest thing in the world, you know. And that was like walking out for the Olympic trials. I think I was walking out for the semifinals against Brandon Agam, and I remember like this feeling of like strength and power and like just zoned in. That was awesome. The NCAA tournament was awesome, but while walking out to a UFC fight, a legit UFC fight, there's nothing that compares to it. Stepping in that cage, having to block the gate behind you, like it's not for everybody. A lot of wrestlers wouldn't do it, which blows me away because like I knew the type of wrestler I was. I'm like, God, of course, it's in our blood. Anyone would do this, but there are a lot of wrestlers like, no way, I wouldn't do that. So,
what was your journey into the UFC? Like, how did you get into it? It was 08, 07. How old were you, and like, what was your path to get in there?
Started training. My first month, they were like, "Hey, you want to fight down in the Cayman Islands?" And Ryan Bader was like, just fought there several months before. He's like, "Dude, you got to go do this. This guy you're fighting, he's a turd." It's at heavyweight, and I'm like, I weigh 200 pounds. Like, yeah, but these guys are terrible. So I go down to the Cayman Islands, and I made like $5,000 just to fly down there and fight some guy that was a little short, fat dude from he's probably 230 pounds, and he came out swinging. I'd only been training for a month, and really not very much. And I double-legged the guy like 5 times and like was doing these little punches on his face. I'm like looking at the ref like, please stop this fight. I think I'm going to kill him. And I wasn't killing him. I was barely touching him. But like I just kept taking him down, slamming him because I didn't know anything else. And that was my first fight. Then I had like 2 others, one in Rocky Point, Mexico. At that time, I'm like, it was I was out in a baseball field in Rocky Point, Mexico. And I'm like,
where the hell is Rocky Point, Mexico at? Like driving distance?
God. Oh yeah. It's right on the ocean. It's actually beautiful. It's a huge destination for like spring breakers out here.
Okay.
All the colleges go out there. It's a fun place. But I'm not where the fun is. I'm in a baseball diamond, like a little league baseball diamond. I'm outfield, like walk because the cage is away from me. My fight's coming up, and I'm walking out there, and I'm going, holy shit, what am I doing with my life? Like I've got 2 college degrees, and I'm getting ready to go step in a cage for $1,000 and fight some guy that I'll kill, and I'm not really getting up for it now. And it's like maybe my 3rd fight at that time. I'm like, geez, I don't know if I should be doing this. I stepped in there and beat the guy. And then my 4th fight, I got called to get into the WEC, which I don't know if you remember, something Versus Network. They ended up getting bought by Zuffa, which was, actually when I fought for them, they were under Zuffa, which owned the UFC. Yeah. And had a fast knockout there, and then boom, my next fight was in the UFC. So I had a fast track. I mean, I was in the UFC in a year, if that.
Has it changed quite a bit, even from back in your time to now, based on what you know and what you've seen guys like who are fighting in terms of like, it's just like the media requirements, just the change in the atmosphere? Or is it pretty similar?
Yeah, it's changed, and it was something that I didn't grasp as much as I, looking back now, I probably should have. But the guys that are having success now are the ones that are just going Chael Sonnen. Like everybody wants to be the next Chael Sonnen. You look at Conor McGregor and some of those guys. They owe a lot to what Chael did. The way he carried himself, how he would build fights. Like I didn't build fights. I would just get in, fight, get your hand raised, run out. We did stuff as how we were raised to wrestle. You don't look at me. It's all about the victory and go off and train again. It's not like, look how great I am. And now it's crazy. Like maybe it's just a society with Facebook and Instagram and everything. It's like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look how great I am. Like, I don't know how many girls you see on their Instagram. It's the same picture, the turned picture in the mirror with a little bit of their butt cheek showing.
Oh yeah.
every picture. And it's like, God, how can you even like yourself? Maybe you don't like yourself, and that's why you feel like you have to do this. The selfies, like, it blows me away. I can understand like posting funny stuff, and you have friends. I have friends that we joke with each other, and so we put dumb stuff on there. But the constant like and the motivational Instagrams are the guys that are like, hey man, can you get up in the morning? I'm gonna run. Like you got to train. And the guy's got like 5 followers, and he's just being inspirational.
What about the 22-year-old life coach?
Oh God, 22-year-old life coach. I just saw a 12-year-old girl giving makeup advice on Instagram. She's gonna do her makeup tutorial, and it just blows me away. Like as a parent, you gotta be like, no, give me the phone. You're not giving makeup advice.
Do you now that you're a parent, I mean, you seem like you really love being a dad, and I wanted to ask you about this. Is there a new meaning to like discipline when you're raising a family in terms of like time management and things like that, and how do you manage your kids on social media and that kind of thing?
Yeah, oh yeah. They don't have social media. They can look like at TikTok, their friends that have it, so they can get on and look at those. But like we really have to manage that. YouTube, the crap that's on YouTube, we're watching. My son likes to get on there and watch like highlight stuff from sports and the how to throw a curveball and pitching, and he likes that. Dude Perfect. You know what Dude Perfect is? You ever heard of it? Oh, look up Dude Perfect on YouTube.
Okay.
These dudes are my age or younger, and they are living a dream life. And they go out and just do like obstacle courses and fun stuff, and throw a ping pong ball into a glass from top of the roof. And they've made millions on this deal. So he watches that stuff. Dude Perfect.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish I had thought of it. So, but yeah, man, it's different. I don't have like a huge farm or wood to go chop or anything to go send my kids out and do. Like mow the lawn, that's about the most, and pick up the dog poop in the backyard, that's about the most discipline I can get them to do.
Right.
So, and I don't want to do discipline as like, yeah, you messed up, you got push-ups. Because I think coaches that discipline by like making a kid work out sends the wrong message. I think that like I'll never forget this. I was coaching with Sammy Henson out in Cal Poly, and his son Jackson is a little stud. He's growing up now, but Jackson was this little kid. I think it was Jackson or Wyatt, one of the 2 kids of Sammy's. Mm-hmm. And we're training at the Cal Poly room, and his son's there, and his son goes, Dad, can I do 5 sprints? And he goes, yeah, okay, go ahead. And so here goes little Wyatt, boom, or Jackson, whichever one it was. He did 5 sprints, and he came back and goes, Dad, can I do 5 more sprints? Like he was asking his dad if he could do 5 sprints, as opposed to Sammy going, dang it, you messed up, do 5 sprints.
Right.
And I just think that reverse psychology. So the other day we were playing ping pong with my son, and I go, okay, whoever wins this round right here gets to do 50 push-ups. Or every point played, whoever wins that point, you get to do 10 push-ups. So like it was a battle of who gets to do more push-ups. And I think if we can start like framing that, it changes the way kids view exercise, and it's a good thing to be able to do push-ups, not a negative thing.
No,
I hate coaches. It's usually the big fat coach that's never done a push-up in his life with this big goal, barking out orders. We've all had them. It's mostly football coaches that do that. By the way.
Did you ever try out for ASU when you were there and like work out with those guys?
I worked out with the football team my senior year. Just sprints, and went out on the football field, did stuff like that, but never, legit stuff. But, I was in Pat Tillman and some of those guys. Like I was friends with all those dudes, Jake Plummer and Keith Poole, and some of them I'm still friends with today. So it would have been a fun time. I look back and see like, I would have probably been a wide receiver or a defensive back. And I look at like Keith Poole, who was a wide receiver, and he was my size. And it was a stud wide receiver, and I think I could have complimented him, or I could have been out there in the defense. I was 200 pounds, 6 foot, but it was just such a big thing to me, like, college football. Yeah. So I came from crappy high school football. So it would have been fun, but it is what it is. My life went this way.
Well, dude, I was going to ask you, obviously you're big supporter of the Pat Tillman Foundation. I have to know, what is your connection there? Is that something where you guys were just buddies and you feel very, very kind of driven by the cause, or?
Well, I think anyone who was at ASU around that time, and really anyone who's a Sun Devil to this day, I think, is drawn to what Pat's message was. We visited several times. We never hung out or anything, but we see each other in the weight room all the time. We'd always ask each other, how are we doing? I knew Kevin, his brother, a little bit more. They'd come and watch us wrestle. Their dad wrestled at San Jose State back in the day.
Okay.
So they knew wrestling. Kevin was playing baseball at the time at ASU, and so there was just that connection. When it happened, I'll never forget. I was at the 2004 down in Louisiana, New Orleans. There was an Olympic team trials qualifier, and I think I just won it. And then that night I went out, and I think we got the news that Pat was killed, and it just buried me like most anybody around that time, but. Some of us that knew him and knew what he stood for. I mean, the guy was just unbelievable.
And he was an NFL player, right? And then left that to go serve.
Yeah. And he signed a contract, and he could have went somewhere else. He was coming up, and he re-signed. And he wasn't the best NFL player, but he's the type of guy you want on your team. I mean, he got a bonus and put it away. He lived in a small house. He drove a Jeep. He rode his bike. He had a bicycle. He rode his bicycle to practice. He's an NFL football player. He had his cleats over his neck and tied his shoelaces through his neck, and would ride his bike up to practice. While all the other guys were riding, going up in their Range Rovers and everything. Here comes Pat riding up on his bicycle. I mean, he was just a freaking dude. I don't know how, if you ever get a chance to read anything on him or read kind of about his life, I think he's someone that we should all aspire to be like.
Yeah. ESPN should do a 30 for 30 on that guy. I'm surprised there hasn't done something.
Well,
really.
there have been a lot. There's stuff you can. There have already been a lot of things on him. I want to say ESPN's done a bunch of stuff on him too. Maybe not 30, but.
Yeah, I was just. I figured you guys crossed paths there, and I wanted to ask what your connection was there. So two things I wanted to hit on that we haven't covered yet one was the fact that you're a high school coach now. You've had an incredible career to look back on, coaching fighters, coaching wrestlers, and obviously relying on your own experience. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about was your junior year in college. You've said it's the only time where you did enjoy working out. What do you think changed that year versus earlier in college and then even after college? Because I understand you still love getting after it now.
Repeat that question again. My headphones.
I saw you grab it. Yeah. I just said, now that you're a high school coach, looking back on your career, your junior year, you said it's one of the only times where you didn't enjoy working out and you felt like it was more of a job. What do you take from that experience to help your guys, one, make sure they don't feel that way, and two, kind of get themselves right mentally to pull through something like that?
Yeah, it was crazy. You do your homework, don't you?
Do as much as I can.
That's good. Yeah, I just think we got me and my roommate at the time, Casey Strand. We both won Midland, so we trained our asses off up until. We trained our asses off the whole year, but we were really peaking at Midlands, which was end of December. We both won Midlands, and we were riding high. By the time the NCAAs rolled around, we were just burnt out, and it was God, it was so tough for us. I ended up going 2-0 at the NCAA tournament, and it just. I don't know what happened. I lost with one. I lost to two guys ended up being All-Americans. They were the one guy I lost to, we were ranked number 1 and number 2. We both lost first round.
I saw that.
So
freaking crazy.
Yeah, it was just a bad time. Weird things were happening, I guess. But I love the sport, and I continue to, and I still get on that with my high school guys now. I've got a knee that probably needs a knee replacement. Body hurts a little bit, shoulders all. I can name probably 10 injuries that are chronic, but it's it's still good to get out and train, I guess. So
do you think you were just overworked that year, or were you cutting too much weight, or?
No, I wasn't cutting too much weight. I just think we were overworked, and I think and looking back now, we were doing Leroy was training us, and I think he was feeling it. We had some momentum going, and we were doing we'd go and wrestle matches, then we'd run across and we'd do a circuit, and we'd go back and wrestle matches, do a circuit, and I was getting my ass kicked by the third best, or maybe the fourth worst guy in the team.
Yeah.
I'm coming across exhausted from doing a hard circuit and not able to even hold my hands up. And I just think it just got us down where we should have been. This was getting close to the NCAA tournament. I think we really should have been backing off and riding high going into that. So yeah, that's kind of changed the way I coached guys and thought about guys and the way I approached guys when I was coaching at ASU even.
Yeah, Piccolo's dude, if the time comes up, ask Simpson about 97 because he's like, that moved me even to this day as a coach. Like he said, you just walked out and wearing your singlet, just walking out of the arena. I'm like, fuck,
he remembers that.
Dude, that gave me chills when he said it, and it gave me chills saying it now. I'm like, if the time's right, I had to ask him because every wrestler on here, we talk about some moment like that. And you think back, dude, how many teams are overtrained in the 90s? There's most of them, right?
That's what you did?
All of them, right?
Yeah, you overtrained. There was no, and I think Gable had put off that he was training as guy, but I think he was way far ahead of everybody else as far as he had everyone thinking like, well, they're running through walls every day. I don't think they were doing that.
He was good he was good about giving guys what they needed. Some guys didn't even do the afternoon practice.
Exactly. He individualized it, whereas, some coaches that were saying everybody needs to be shooting low singles.
Yeah.
Like, why are you making the heavyweight shooting low single?
Right.
Why are you making this guy do this? Why is this guy doing this? And it was like, you have to individualize it. I think Gable set the standard, and then it took a long time for people to realize that. But no, you're exactly right. It's funny that Brian knew that because it was his teammate that I lost to stay in the tournament, and I tried to walk home. Like I was probably a mile and a half down the road.
In your singlet?
In my singlet, Northern Iowa, freezing out, and my team comes rolling up, man. I was just like, it was depressing.
How long until you were able to get back on the horse and get after it?
I went and won universities like 2 weeks later.
Let's go.
3 weeks later. Yeah, so yeah, that qualified me for the Pan Am Championships. They took a college team that time, so I got to be I was on a team with Chris Bono and some of those guys it was a cool experience. But yeah, man, I mean, I was back in the room. I shook it off, and because I love the sport.
Yeah.
I would never have like I was going to quit. I was just broken from what I lost a match. My first match I lost on a locked hands call. I shot a double leg and held him on his back, but it was locked hands and it wasn't on his back. And so I lost 2 matches by a point. It was just shockingly sad.
Dude, brutal. But you came back, and now you said, obviously you love wrestling. You're a high school coach. It's the last thing I want to talk about is what's that been like going back to the grassroots level? Because I understand the high school didn't even have wrestling until you got there.
Dude, so it's not a high level program. Yeah, it's a third year of the program this year. I was there for the second year, and I didn't realize what coaches dealt with. High school coaches, you're dealing with kids that are coming from broken homes. Kids that are coming from parents that are alcoholics or drugs, or no parents at all, and they're living at someone else's house. Abuse, let alone the drugs that are in the school. And it's in a pretty nice school, and I talked to a couple of kids, like, yeah, that stuff's everywhere. Like everyone's vaping. All these kids are. Right. It's a different day and age. Like I hardly know any of my parents that are coming. The ones I do know are there every day, and they're watching their kids, and they're showing up the tournaments. And those are the kids that you can tell are doing the right thing. Some kids, their parents aren't involved. Like there's one kid I've never met his parents and wouldn't know him here and there, and he comes and goes, and great kid, but man, they have their issues, and just the stuff that comes up, like why they want to miss practice, and it's a standard that I'm not used to, and we don't have a feeder program, so these kids are like, they're coming brand new, never heard of wrestling.
Never wrestled in middle school?
Never, no. There's no, like, this high school doesn't have middle school wrestling in an area, so there's no feeder programs.
Oh my
God. I have a kid goes, hey dad, hey coach, I can't come to practice because my little brother's got a birthday party on Saturday, and my mom wants me to be at it. Like, are you shitting me? You're going to miss your wrestling tournament for your little brother's birthday party. So that happens a lot. I get some of that. I'm sure I share that story, and many more coaches come up. Oh, yeah, and we all try to outdo each other on how weak some of our kids are. But then you still have some tough kids. And you went back, and I go back to Arizona, you say, it's gaining ground on how great the state is, but we've always put out great individual wrestlers. I mean, look at Henry Cejudo and Eric Larkin and dating back to Eddie Urbano and some of these guys. Yeah, the Gallic brothers. It's like we have great individuals, and the little pockets of schools like Sunnyside High Schools put out Tom Ortiz and some of these these studs that went on to wrestle Division I and made world teams, and so we have that. There's the talent around here. Now it's going to get developed because of better coaching and programs. We've got a program out of the west side of Phoenix now, Liberty High School, that's really kicking butt. They've got a great feeder system. Sunkissed out here in Tempe, and then Thoroughbred down here in Tempe and Chandler. So it's coming. It's just we're behind still a little bit.
Well, one of the things I want to ask you is, obviously you could coach at any elite high school. What brought you to this high school you're at now versus going to that prep school you mentioned earlier?
I got talked into it by a father.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, one of my friends, his son was wrestling at the high school, and they weren't exactly happy with the way the program was going. He and another guy wanted it changed. So it conned me into it in a way. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and it's been cool. It's been really awesome. And he's a business owner out here and does really well for himself. And so he's done a lot for the program, built this program, and
nice.
And really, so Christian Paglioleo was an All-American for us at ASU last year. I call Christian and I go, hey, will you do privates with this kid? I can't do it. He's the dad that brought me on. And the kid's a little smaller. So I hooked Christian up with his dad. And so he was doing privates. And pretty soon the dad calls me and goes, hey, would you like Christian as your assistant coach next year? I'm like, yeah, awesome. I love Christian. So CPAGs came over. And so we both coached together this past year. And so here you got two Division I All-Americans coaching at a high school that is way behind, but we're doing our best and it's fun. And Christian also works for the guy's company. I got Christian a job with the dad's company. So
I love it.
It's kind of cool. It's all about networking and taking care of people that you like, I guess.
It's huge. That's especially in wrestling. You always find there's someone like that connected to each program in some way or another, whether it's high school, middle school, or college. Yeah. Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you, man, is it's the name of the podcast, How Did Wrestling Change Your Life? And you've applied it to many different areas. We didn't really talk about your real estate career, but obviously an MMA coach, an MMA fighter, All-American college coach. So you have a lot to choose from. But what are some of the things that stand out to you of core takeaways that the sport's given you?
Well, I don't know that it ever changed my life. I think it made my life. How about that?
Some people say, Dan Gable's like, it didn't change my life. It made my life better. So you could say whatever you want.
Yeah, that's just it. There are some kids that are going one direction. Cain Velasquez, I mean, he would have gone one direction, and because of wrestling, his life took off in another direction. He was able to get a degree from ASU and then fight in the UFC and now in the WWE. Mm-hmm. I was always a wrestler. That was just what it was. So it made my life. Everyone says the cliche things like hard work and dedication and discipline and stuff. Of course, that's what you get from wrestling. I was speaking the other day, and it hit me that what wrestling is we're problem solvers, and I use that term, and now I'm going to continue to use it because I really think it's important that we solve problems, whatever it is. If you have something in your family and you have an issue arise, if you're a wrestler, you're like, okay, guy's on my leg, I got to shove his head, or I from here, I kick out, or how am I going to solve this problem, this guy on my leg? I'm down by 2 points. How do I solve this problem? I think maybe a lot of sports get that, but we as wrestlers, we do it at a level of like a sense of urgency. That was a term that Z Jones used to always use with us. We had that sense of urgency to solve a problem quickly and move on to the next issue and problem. So I think that's where it arises with me is, we have a sense of urgency to solve problems, and we're really good at it. For most wrestlers are. If we're not causing problems, we're solving them. How's that?
Well, dude, you're only the second person who's ever said that. The first was Andy Rovat, and he said that's how the Russians look at wrestling. Russians don't look at wrestling as this grueling physical task. They look at it as complex problem solving at the highest levels.
Wow.
I mean, it's spot on to what you said,
Andy
though.
Would know. Andy and I were adversaries there for a while. Now we're good friends, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, he said that, but I think it's true though, man. So it's a good way to look at it versus the typical things you hear. So really appreciate your time, sir. I know you got a house full of kids. We'll let you go. Great catching up with you though, man.
Yeah. Thank you for reaching out. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Take care. And all great things must come to an end. If you want to hear more from the podcast, text WRESTLE to 555-888. That's WRESTLE to 555-888. You can also find us on Instagram, Wrestling Changed My Life, Twitter, Ryan_N_Warner, as well as our website, WrestlingChangedMyLife.com. Take care, y'all. Calm. 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 Take care.